Yeah. DIIV, that's DIIV, just released their fourth album, Frog in Boiling Water. And anytime one of my favorite artists or bands release an album, I've got plenty of reason to get excited. And if you have not heard of this band, you might be in for a treat. Now, DIIV is how should I put this? I would say it's a mix of indie rock, dream pop, shoegaze, and surf rock, depending on where in the band's trajectory we're talking about. As I mentioned, this new album, Frog in Boiling Water, is their fourth album, and the current lineup includes Zachary Cole Smith. He's pretty much the founder of the band. He's the main songwriter. He's the lead vocalist, guitarist. Zachary Cole Smith. Andrew Bailey, he's the other guitarist, even though he's pretty much the lead guitarist. Like when they get into a crazy, or should I say blissful, euphoric guitar solo, it's usually Andrew Bailey. Then you've got Colin Caulfield, who pretty much plays bass, keyboards, backing vocalist, used to play some guitar. And then you've got Ben Newman, who's been playing the drums since about 2015. Their original drummer was Colby Hewitt. So as I mentioned, DIIV is one of my favorite bands, especially in this collection of subgenres. As I mentioned, it's dreamy, so you've got dream pop. It's shoegazy, especially in their recent works. But the album that really grabbed me and made me an instant fan was their 2012 debut, Ocean, Oshin. This album, I swear, from I would say track 1 to about track 6, track 7, this is unbelievably euphoric. You've got the opening song. It's called Drun, D-R-U-U-N. And then tracks 2 and 3 are called Past Lives and Human. Those 3 songs alone, if you listen to 1, 2, and then 3, engulfs you into this dreamy, guitar-filled wall of sound. Again, it's got some surf rock vibes. Think if you're into that 1950s, late 50s surf rock, namely Dick Dale, or even other guitarists like Link Wray, or think certain instrumental bands, The Shadows, The Ventures, or even early Beach Boys, or even Pest Sounds era Beach Boys, quite frankly. When you think of DIIV's sound collage, it's pretty beautiful stuff. And when DIIV released that Ocean debut, this came just about a year or two after another band that, at least in my own mind, I was kind of associating with a similar sound. Real Estate had released their best album called Days. So at the time I was really into both of those albums, Days by Real Estate and then Ocean by DIIV. And then there were a few other not super similarly sounding, but somewhat. You've got Best Coast around that same time. You also had Surfer Blood that was doing a lot of the kind of the surf rocky, dreamy, surf rocky indie rock music, especially that Astro Coast album from Surfer Blood. But DIIV, when I heard Ocean, I kind of felt like that one it might have been the best out of that whole group between 2010 and 2012. So this was an album that I was able to, no, don't do it. I was about to say dive into, no, but I did dive into Ocean for the next couple of years. And in the 2010s, me and my boy, we were shooting a lot of concerts like at all around LA, the different venues, the Echoplex, the Hi-Hat at the time, even in Orange County, the Observatory, Constellation Room. We were pretty much all over OC and LA counties shooting a bunch of different, shows from different genres. So we were shooting this festival that was put on by the Growlers, the band The Growlers. And this one was at the Observatory in that Santa Ana, Costa Mesa area. It was outside and it was inside because it had several different stages going on. But this was called Beach Goth 4. I think it was 2015 that we shot that. And I was instantly excited when I saw that DIIV was going to be on the bill. So we caught DIIV outside in 2015 just as they were gearing up, or this might have been 2016 actually, but it was just as they were gearing up to release their second album, Is R. That's their second album. And one of the songs that we only shot about 3 or 4 songs from the band during this festival performance. So we would do video, and it was often multi-camera, and then I would go into the Adobe Premiere Pro and do all of the editing. We would publish it onto our Seen and Heard TV YouTube channel. It's still up. We haven't updated it in years, but you can see everything that we shot, pretty much, that we edited on that Seen and Heard TV YouTube channel. But I was super excited to get to shoot DIIV, and one of the songs that they premiered from this upcoming second album, Is the Is Are, was their lead single, Dopamine. That song, I mean, we shot, again, about 3 different songs and made them into videos, one of which was How Long Have You Known? And that's about halfway into that Ocean album. So I was already familiar with that one. I wasn't familiar with Dopamine yet, but I remember as I was shooting it, I'm like, damn, this is sounding good. Because they said it at the time, we're going to premiere a new song, and then they got into it. And I'm thinking as I'm shooting, like, man, this is super just pleasant to listen to. It's just all of those surf rocky, indie, outdoorsy vibes, you know, very beach-like. And so when we published that song, Dopamine, that ended up being like one of our top 3 or 4 videos in terms of engagement, in terms of views, in terms of likes, comments, all of that. It was Dopamine. So like if you type in DIIV, the name of the band, DIIV, Dopamine, you might not even have to type in live, but if you go into YouTube, it'll probably be one of the first like 3 or 4 that come up. But yeah, if you give that a look, pay special attention to Andrew Bailey's guitar solo after the first verse, and then they get into those splashes of beautiful, enchanting guitar. And just look at how in it he is as he's just kind of jumping around the stage, getting into this very pillowy, sensational guitar solo. Just listen to that, and you can imagine what we were feeling as I was shooting this video. So then shortly after that, I got to hear that second album, Is the Is Are, and I liked it a lot. Not quite as much as Ocean, but the high points were about as high as any. Again, if you listen to especially the first half of Ocean, it's one of my favorite in that whole genre. On Is the Is Are, the second one, some of the highlights are, as I mentioned, Dopamine, the song Bent, and I would say the track 2, Under the Sun. Those would be maybe my 3 favorite songs from that album. I don't know, I have to go back and re-listen to that one. But during this whole time, and then leading into the third album, which didn't come until 2019, so their debut hit in 2012, their second album 2016, 4 years apart, and then 3 years later, they dropped Deceiver. And by this time, their bassist, Devin Rubin Perez, he left the band. On one hand, it was because of his commentary on 4chan, and it was a lot of problematic commentary that pretty much got him on the outs with the band, even though he says that he had been suffering industry fatigue and that he pulled away from the band voluntarily. So you've got conflicting stories on that one. But around that time is when Colin Caulfield went from playing mostly keyboard to becoming their new bassist going forward. And Colin Caulfield also started to step up and help Zachary Cole Smith share the songwriting duties, because Zachary Cole Smith writes all their songs, but now it's a more collaborative effort, and that started pretty much with Deceiver. Now, Deceiver, it's not as surf rocky as their first 2, especially not as surf rocky as their first one. It's a little bit less dream pop, and it's more shoegazy, where you've got the slower, washed out wall of sound. It's a slower, sludgier, think like My Bloody Valentine or Slow Dive. That might be 2 of the more obvious references when I'm talking about this slower, washed out guitar. It's a little bit darker, a little bit moodier. There's not as much levity and bounciness and outdoorsiness as there was on that Ocean debut. But Deceiver, again, it gave you a different side of the band. To me, it was a little darker, a little heavier, just more shoegaze overall. And I did like the album, but quite frankly, not as much as their first two. And with the teaser songs that they released that went into this new album, Frog in Boiling Water, I need to re-listen to this new album, but it sounds like they're kind of doubling down on that heavier, sludgier, shoegazy sound. And it sounds like their mission with this new album is they're trying to bring to life the slow, this is in quotes, the slow, sick, and overwhelmingly banal collapse of society under end-stage capitalism, the brutal realities that we've maybe come to accept as normal. That's kind of the theme behind Frog in Boiling Water, and they're trying to bring that to life with their sound on this new album. So yeah, let me know if you're into DIIV. If you are you more into their original surf rocky, dreamy sound, or are you more into this heavier shoegaze sound from their last couple of albums? So do you like the first two albums and the sound that came with that, or the latest two albums? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, props to Zachary Cole Smith for overcoming his, drug addiction. That had been something that was kind of plaguing the band for some time, but he got the help that he needed. He's been on, recovery, kind of reshaping, reforming his life to a degree. And it's been kind of an ongoing battle with Zachary Cole Smith, the mastermind, the songwriter, chief songwriter, vocalist of the band. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on, again, one of my favorite bands in this whole genre, DIIV, in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.